Hello and welcome to this episode of The Rest is Entertainment with me, Marina Hyde.
And me, Richard Osman. Hello, Marina.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad at all. Shall we get straight on and talk about Minecraft? Because it is clear in your mind. You've been to see it. Remind me
why I'm talking about it.
How well you thought it was going to do, the Minecraft movie.
I'm not alone in this, but when we did our look ahead to the box office of the year, and I was trying to name the biggest movies of what I thought would be the biggest movies of 2025, I was like, quite iffy on them. I certainly didn't include it as one of the ones I thought would be the biggest movies. The tracking has been so wildly off on this. The reason we're even talking about it is because it is a massive, massive hit.
It's an enormous smash.
It's coming against the backdrop of the worst box office since the 1990s, bar the pandemic. It is an enormous. It's made like 157 million in the opening weekend in the US.
Than the Mario movie.
It's made more than Mario. It's like about 3 million off Barbie. It's way beaten Inside Out 2. By the way, it's made on a 75-25 split between Warner Brothers and Legendary, and it's the fourth Warner Brothers film ever to open over $160 million, and they were Batman, Superman, Deathly Hallows Part 2, and Barbie, the biggest video game movie opening ever. So.
Now, remember, because
what happened?
Just before you were going to see it, you texted me and just said, "Why have you got all these old people on the posters?"
Okay, we'll
get into that.
I went to the 9:20 showing of it at Westfield. That's 9:20 a.m. on Sunday morning.
You know, a film's doing good business when it's got a 9:20.
We weren't
showing.
alone in the cinema. My children were like, there will be. I managed to persuade 2 of my children to accompany me.
Yeah, so 14 of them left at home.
Yeah. In the shoe, the old in the shoe, and there was, and then we saw the poster, and my son said, "Oh, and it's got Jack Black on it." He was like, "Oh my God, he's about 90." It's like, listen, have some respect for the star of School of Rock and the guy who's been, number 2 or 3 on the call sheet ever since.
Yeah. This guy,
except for Kung Fu Panda, but it's a voiceover.
This guy was number 4 on the call sheet of The Holiday, and there was only 4 people in it. Come on.
I don't know where you put him on Jumanji, but it's obviously not a number 1. Now, listen, the point anyway. And Jason Momoa, I mean, I don't know. I mean, does he get the joke of Jason Momoa? I get it's hard to say from the film.
I think the fact that he doesn't get the joke of Jason Momoa is the joke of Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, but you're never quite sure whether they do. In a way, I think Nicolas Cage perhaps does. Anyhow, Minecraft movie. People made a lot of fun about that indefinite article when that first came out. Let me assure you, this will not be the only Minecraft movie after these numbers.
So another Minecraft movie.
Yeah, another. There'll be several others.
Block 2.
But it's really hard to describe it other than critically, it's been completely panned.
Yeah.
Under 18s are given an A on Cinema Score, which tells you a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a constant, endless loop of gibberish kind of would-be comic action sequences that my 10-year-old was like, why was none of that explained? There was no narrative. What happened to their parents? We were talking about orphans again. Why is everyone an orphan? I was like, I've just done something on this.
Please, if you've got questions for me, send them to the podcast.
And also, can you wait to the end of the film? But in America, they religiously break down the demographics of the box office, almost in real time while it's happening. So we know that 78% of the opening night box office was aged 13 to 24. I think 35% was 13 to 17. Now, again, people say, they don't want to go to the cinema anymore. they only watch YouTube. Okay, if you go onto YouTube, you can't watch anything without having to watch a Minecraft advert first. And I have to, it's almost as if what adolescents really want to watch is not necessarily adolescents. It's this rubbish. Sorry, no offence. I watched it. Listen, I sat through it. I can say what I like. Did any of you go to Westfield at 9:20 on a Sunday? If not, don't write in.
It's funny, no one's saying, you know what, I think they should show this in schools.
Yeah.
It's very important they show this in schools. But imagine if you did. Imagine you go into school and they're showing this. You'd be, oh my God, it's the best day ever at school.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What are they showing? Ada what?
Sorry.
Sorry, who's it? Stephen who? Written by Jack Watt?
Yeah. Well, there was lots of reasons that people thought, oh, it's not going to do very well.
Yeah.
There was, like always especially when gamers are involved, there was some sort of vocal fan opposition and people saying, oh, they shouldn't have made it effectively. It is CGI, but it sort of looks like it's live action. They should have done it as animation. Bear in mind, by the way, this movie, this is another crucial part, it cost 150 million, which is not very much.
Not
Obviously,
crazy,
they'll have spent 100 plus on marketing,
And
but it's not
Jack
crazy.
Black.
It doesn't matter really if the CGI is not great, which it isn't in lots of parts, because and it's certainly not the main problem with the film, but it doesn't matter if it isn't, because how lo-fi is Minecraft? It's supposed to look like it, So there was some vocal fan opposition, and people sort of looked at the trailer and said, here's how I would have done it. I'm building my own Minecraft trailer. And everyone's like, oh, these are so beautiful. These are great. The fans should have been allowed to make this movie. Well, you know what? The fans love this movie, okay?
Yeah. And also, you probably wouldn't have made $153 million in your opening weekend with your version of it.
Yes, absolutely. The other reasons people in the industry didn't think that it would do so well is because they thought, yes, sure. By the way, it is the most popular video game of all time, and it's had, got every month they've got 180 million players, and
300 million copies
many sold.
The guy who came up with it, Marcus Persson, he's a billionaire. Quite rightly, I think it's kind of a great thing, though.
Oh
Minecraft.
God, it's a wonderful thing. Minecraft.
If something's going to be the big phenomenon of someone's childhood, Minecraft is. It's
so
imaginative,
wonderful. It's so
creative.
Yeah.
It's that's the fascinating thing about it. We'll get back onto the movie, but the thing I love about Minecraft is it. There's lots of different ways to play it. It's kind of open-ended. It uses kids' imagination. It's building stuff. It just seems like an extraordinarily useful thing to have in a child's life.
It's absolutely wonderful.
They're going to watch some nonsense. And it's interesting you talking about the amount of trailers there are for it on YouTube, because the game itself became so enormous really through the internet and through people playing it and people watching other people playing it, and the fact that you can design your own mods for this game. Just the whole thing is so anathema to anything that we grew up with. We had sort of choose your own adventure. If you think you should jump in the river, go to page 17. That was how interactive our childhood was. This is, it's extraordinary, and for anyone who kind of bemoans children sitting in front of screens. If your kid is playing Minecraft and they're really engaging with Minecraft, you couldn't have a better sort of route into life. It's extraordinary, the challenges you're set and the way you have to collaborate with people and the ways that you can use your imagination.
Or the way you can just use it like Lego, on-screen Lego.
Exactly.
If you're not playing in survival mode and if you're not, or watching like KSI play it, which... afraid I've seen an awful lot of. Watched a lot of Mr. Beast and KSI playing Minecraft. But there are now videos of people watching them do it. Anyway,
funny enough, in the new Thursday Murder Club book, it's out in September. There's a scene where someone is watching somebody watching a video on their phone, and next to someone and listening out loud on their phone as well. I won't tell you what happens to that person, but they regret it.
Yeah,
it's nice having a universe.
Just dispose
where
of
you
them,
can,
Richard.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice to create your own universe, which is sort of what Minecraft is.
But the other lovely thing I think about Minecraft, and this, I think the computer games industry has hit up on this beautiful thing, which we haven't quite got in other creative industries yet, early access model that they have for their game. So they've nearly finished a game. They will then release it to a select group of people. You have to pay for it, but essentially they're saying, can you be our testers?
Yeah.
Because it's quite hard with a video game. There's bugs everywhere. And people are so excited to be involved at that stage, at alpha stage or beta stage, that they pay to play this game to then send off saying, oh, there's a bug here, this is a problem, this is an issue. So they're doing the job of a games tester, but also they are spreading the word about this thing. They're saying, oh, we've got this incredible thing, it's going to be coming out, it's coming in September. And then they still buy the thing when it comes out as well. It's such an amazing, it'd be interesting to see how you could make that work in the world of sitcom or sketch show or something like that. I suspect you could. So it's not quite Kickstarter, it's not quite
or Wiki, something, but it is.
It's something even more impressive than that, where people really feel part of something, but are also providing an incredibly useful service to that product.
So again...
Anyway, enough of that, because everyone just wants to hear your view of the movie at 9:20 at Westfield.
Okay, do you know how you know cinema's in trouble? I'll tell you, and I think apart from the box office, which we're going to come to, but I think it's really interesting. One of the things I walked past on the way to the Minecraft screen, one of the other very big screens, there was a sign for a church, and one of the screens is now a church on Sundays.
Is it? Good day
Celebration Church. What do you think of that?
I think it's great.
We know that sometimes like cinemas are sort of closing down in half and becoming climbing walls and soft plays, but there was something so weird about people going into one of the screens and it being used as a church.
I think that's great. Because what is a cinema? It's an enormous screen where you can see something, and it's quite comfortable.
Don't say it's
chairs.
a religious experience. Don't say it's a religious
Well,
experience.
it sort of is. You can watch, you can watch National Theatre live and stuff like that. And this is just God live.
Let me just download some further thoughts on that for a future episode.
I think if
I'm going to investigate more.
Listen, in the same way that Fulham now has a private members club so they can make money during the week, if you've got a massive screen there and loads of chairs on a Sunday morning when there's only one film a year they're going to see, and that's Minecraft. You might as well rent it out to a church.
Okay, fine. Let me think about it and let me investigate more about that church thing, because I find it quite fascinating. Anyhow,
but you know my view of it. I think cinema should show television. That's been.
I know your thoughts on this.
I mean, it's crazy that they don't. I mean, that to me that's the easiest win in the whole world. Just show TV. People would go crazy for it.
Well, you don't run cinema chains, but let me tell you who does run cinema chains, okay? And this really shows it. So maybe we should have predicted this, because let's go through the top 10 box office of the whole of last year, right? Yeah. Number 1, Inside Out 2. Number 2, okay, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Number 2, Inside Out 1.
Yeah. Number 3, Moana 2. Number 4, Despicable Me 4. Number 5, Wicked. Number 6, Mufasa, the Lion King live-action spin-off. Number 7, Dune. Number 8, Godzilla v Kong. Number 9, Kung Fu Panda 2. Kung Fu Panda 4, sorry. And number 10, Sonic 3, okay? Wow. That's 7 out of 10 are straight-up kids' movies, right?
It also sounds like the football results.
Kids run cinema chains, okay?
Yes.
They are keeping the lights on. And that's why when we got to the end of the last year and we were saying what looks in relatively good shape, we hope, is the family genre, because that is all, this is keeping it going, okay? So it helps that it's become a sort of event movie, this thing, in that way, like the Gentle Minions, when people put on the suits and they go and see, Despicable Me.
But also it's been such a phenomenon. It doesn't matter of course it matters how good the film is, but it's, of course, if you're a kid, you are going to want to watch this film, whatever the reviews are, 'cause it's been such a large part of your childhood. I mean,
it's really like,
about.
well, and they thought, oh no, unlike Mario, which had generations of people who'd liked it, this has only got 15 years or 16 years or something, and maybe people won't go for that in the same way that because your parents have got to take you in lots of cases. But as it turns out, they have.
But also every parent has seen an awful lot of Minecraft.
Yeah.
Has been exposed, let's say, to an awful lot of Minecraft.
And realises it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
and to a lot of the other stuff.
And also it kind of goes, what else are we going to be doing at 9:20 on a Sunday morning? Homework?
Well, because there were relatively young children in my screening, so they didn't do the TikTok trend. Have you seen what this is?
Oh no, go on.
People are having to, like all things, like how can I eject these people from cinema in the same way that the Gentle Minions were ejected? They scream and they throw popcorn at the trailer lines. So if a line from the movie that's been in the trailer appears, everyone screams. So and they get thrown out and they film themselves being thrown out. So it has become an event movie, for good or for ill, Richard.
I don't know about that.
I know you don't know. Lucky this did not occur, but I could hear children all around me, and there were, quite a few in there for 9:20. They're so excited when they see the physical version of the sort of diamond sword or whatever it is.
But it is exciting. So if your favourite book is made into a movie, it's exciting, whatever it's like. It's just,
it's really weird now. If you get, which was an original, that movie Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, which is a sort of gaming sort of fantasia, I suppose. Now, during that, when they had various bits of IP sort of clashing into it, it was like, oh, there's this from Fortnite, there's that. The children in the cinema are going nuts because they can see things from games they play on the screen. So, as I say, children are keeping the lights on, and everyone's saying they'll only watch YouTube or whatever. It just doesn't understand it. They'll be advertised on YouTube, and then they will make you go. Yeah. If it goes through their school or whatever it is, they don't want to wait till streaming, so they will make people go.
Well, that's it. If this is like if you reimagine cinema, so to us, cinema is a certain things. We grew up, and there were like 3 movies came out a week, and your mum would take you to one once a month, and then when you were a bit older, you started going to see them. Kids have not grown up with that. So what they're actually saying is, this thing that you love on your tiny screen at home. They have built a huge room with an enormous screen. They've made it like an experience, like a live experience of it. They've got loads of chairs you can go and see with all your mates. You can go and sit and watch it. And they go, that sounds like the greatest thing.
Oh my God,
that
they had
anyone's ever
such
invented.
expensive slushy cups with like Minecraft figures on the, sculptures on the top of it. They've got the whole lot.
Can I say before we talk further culturally?
That's slushy pups.
No, because that's piqued my interest. At a 9:20 screening of a film, is that too early for, like if you go on holiday you can have a drink at the airport?
At Wetherspoons, yeah, of course. If it's 5 a.m. Yeah.
If you're at the cinema, can you have pick a mix or popcorn at 9:20 on a Sunday morning?
I was amazed that neither of my children tried it. Maybe they just think I'm a dragon and would have said, "Don't be stupid. We're going out to lunch."
Maybe it's too early.
We're going out to lunch because I couldn't let this be my day.
Yes.
That's why I've made you come at 9:20. I just wanted it out of the way by 11:35.
Like always put the first dentist
11:26
appointment.
it finished.
Yeah.
So I thought, yes.
But
people were getting stuff, yes.
Were they?
Bear in mind, cinemas are food retail.
And also bear in mind that a lot of kids have been up since 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So for them,
waiting to see Minecraft.
It's sort of lunchtime.
Of course, we're going to talk more about the movie industry later, in a sort of from a completely sort of different art house-ish end.
Yeah, the Beatles, who were the Minecraft of their time.
Well,
I mean, they were. Well, we'll talk about that.
I think we will end up talking a little bit about some of that. But it's interesting what sort of weird kind of convulsion Hollywood's in at the moment, apart from all the fires, apart from all those terrible things, as there was last year when they had, terrible quarters, and then suddenly a movie comes along and saves it. They had the whole mantra, survive till 25, which was post-pandemic, we'll get back, and then everything will be all right in 25. Well, it's not all right in 25. The box office is down 11% year on year. Because of the Minecraft movie, it's now only down 6%.
What a Minecraft.
That's one movie, and that's not good. And so lots of movies that they thought would be bigger have already failed. They're in that thing now where they've had one kind of huge hit and they're all saying, oh, well, this is great. Everybody's back.
Yeah.
That is not the sign of, I don't think, of being back. And I think that the big, which we'll talk again later when we talk about the Beatles, they had CinemaCon last week, which is when all the studios in Las Vegas, and we're definitely going to talk about that later, when all the studios go and they show their upcoming wares to the people who put them on in theatres. And it's quite secretive, actually. And I don't know, it's a shame that this movie didn't happen just the week before, because then people might have thought, oh, well, there's still stuff out there. But it is a time of worry for that business, of big worry.
If I'm going to go to CinemaCon next year, I'm going to get up, I'm going to say, put TV on. But just
I want you to do a presentation there.
If you're Amazon or someone, just buy a cinema chain and put loads of TV on. Just put Friends on all day. Just put your new stuff on. People will go absolutely nuts for it. It's a great advert for your new things as well. You keep
giving this idea away for free.
Yeah, because I want someone to do it. I'm
not
going to do it. I'm too old to get involved in all that stuff.
I know you can't get involved in theatrical distribution.
Oh my God, you know what I mean?
You've had a few career changes, but I think that one's that's a jump too far even for you.
What's Richard doing now? Oh, he's running a series of cinemas in the Midwest. How's it going? He's really having a bad time. He's not enjoying it at all.
But they're doing an incredible documentary about it.
Turns out people don't want to watch TV in the cinema, and so he's lost an awful lot of money. Give us a 30-second review of the movie and what it is and what people can expect.
Jack Black is not 90. He's 55. Jason Momoa is 45, apparently.
100 between them.
Enjoys partying, I think, if I can put it that way. They're two, what my children regard as quite old people, having a sort of buddy, there's no dead wood. Everyone wants to put a joke on a joke. I don't know if the lines are so bad that Jack Black's delivery throughout is extraordinary. It's like he's in a panto. And I wonder if he just thought, we've been through about 100 rewrites. I don't know where to start with this. If I just do everything in a stupid, a stylized voice, like I'm just doing an SNL sketch, then maybe it will just somehow cohere.
Yeah, and also they can fix it in the edit. And he's gone in to watch it at 9:20, and he's gone, sorry, you left all of it in. All I was doing was giving you options.
I really felt a significant amount of it was improvised, and that at a certain point, Jason Momoa was like, "I'm great at improvising." Can you just say? Not sure you are, but anyway, the children in it, the boy is very forgettable. The girl in it, Emma Myers, the sort of older sister, of course they're orphans. Emma Myers. She's in Wednesday, and she's in Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and she doesn't have a whole lot to do. Danielle Brooks, nobody has a huge amount to do. I mean, the plot is genuinely...
what's the basic storyline?
You see, that's the thing. They've got to get a glowy thing back. I mean, that's the story of every...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, get the glowy thing back and unite it with its special case.
That's pretty much all of Shakespeare.
You just... Yeah. Yes. And I think they try at a certain point to sort of foreground it. It begins... The whole way that they even get into it starts with a sell-off in storage units. Because, obviously the guy hasn't claimed it. It's not at all explained. Also, no children in that cinema, let me tell you, knew on earth what a storage unit was.
Yeah, they haven't watched Storage Wars.
Did not appreciate that sometimes things get sold off at the end of when no one's just turned out to pay the bill for a while. That passed them all by. They were literally waiting to get to the overworld and to be in the, to go through the portal. I mean, it is honestly completely episodic. Nothing... They're just sort of moving through the world with no rhyme or reason, much as you might if you were playing the game, and making... I really have to say it is a complete mess. But they all seem to be...
It's a lucrative mess.
It's unbelievable. So there you go. Yeah. It is, and that doesn't mean that, of course, that the critics were wrong. Not at all. It's interesting, and it's great that young people do want to go to the cinema. And just, I mean, it has blindsided everybody. Even the tracking, which is an industry and is a business.
They missed it.
It was way under half what they were saying. I mean, they were saying even less than... It was extraordinary, and people were just thinking it wasn't going to take off.
So there'll be lots of people listening to this now who they are very aware in the week ahead that they are going to this with a child or a niece or nephew or grandchild. I mean, is it...
If you don't go at the 9:20 showing,
you get through it?
Say you get to go at 5, I don't think it would be unreasonable to have one of the little bottles of Blossom Hill that they try and sell you. That might help.
Yeah.
Just let it wash over you like 100 minutes where you don't have to really do any parenting.
Yeah. And if anyone is listening, because their parents listen to this podcast in the car and they're in the back of the car and they're huge Minecraft fans, are they going to enjoy it?
My children liked Minecraft and didn't, but the children around me liked it very much. They were younger than 10 and 14, but they liked it very, very much. And if you like what you like, so go and have a look.
I assume just a genuinely amazing ironic watch for students in their early 20s who also grew up with Minecraft.
Oh yeah,
they were the watching it ironically.
The ultimate edibles movie.
Yeah,
let me leave it at that. This episode is brought to you by Sky, where you can watch unmissable shows, which includes the new season of the multiple Emmy Award-winning Hacks, starring Jean Smart and Hannah Einbinder.
We love Hacks so much.
Absolutely love it.
I'm so looking forward to this new series. For people who don't know Hacks, Marina, talk us through it a little bit.
It's focused on the relationship between the older comedian who's played by Jean Smart, Deborah Vance, who's one of those real old showbiz troopers.
She plays Vega. She just sort of does residency. Yeah. She's sort of, almost like a Joan Rivers-y type character.
Exactly.
Old school.
She's the boomer, and Hannah Einbinder is a kind of Gen Zer. It's really interesting on the stuff between the ages.
Yeah, so she plays Ava Daniels, who's essentially becomes Deborah Vance's writer.
Yeah.
So she writes for very
Having
cool,
sort
very
of
hip
been cancelled
things.
for a joke at the start.
Yes.
So we start in the culture war and we continue in it. But what I love about the show particularly is the absolute reverence for comedy and the graft and the craft of it, and what a tough kind of man's world it remains, definitely. And so how hard it is to be a woman in that male-dominated industry.
Yeah, amazing on showbiz, amazing on comedy, amazing on the industry, but also just the relationship between the two of them is a really lovely generational sort of, it's like a sitcom thing. It's very dramatic, but a lot of comedy in there as well.
They've got some terrific guest stars in this season. They've got Helen Hunt, Tony Goldwyn, Eric Balfour, and obviously the returning cast who are peerless.
Yep, the mix of comedy and drama is spot on. You can watch season 4 of the Emmy award-winning Hacks right now on Sky.
Now, we are going to talk about Black Mirror, which comes back on Thursday of this week, which is obviously Charlie Brooker's amazing series. So Charlie, who started as a video games journalist and then created this sort of fake Radio Times listings page, which just seems like an ancient thing as an idea anyway, called TV Go Home. And then he had a column in The Guardian. Then he began writing for television, A Touch of Cloth, all the screen wipes, news wipes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been an incredible journey, but I always think he's very interesting about it because it's wrong to suggest the technology is so evil. It's really a show about people because the technology, as he says, is neutral, and it's it's the people who are using it and how we're becoming warped or not by it, and how we're trying to claw something back from it anyway.
Yeah, exactly that. So season 7 just coming out, as you say, starts on Thursday. They've gone a bit more old school again on this one. I think, the last series, there's great kind of horror stuff, folk horror and things like that. This one is a bit more traditional Black Mirror and the dangers of technology. But it's worth pausing really just to think what an extraordinary success this show has been. There's so many enormous shows that come on every 5 seconds. And, this started in 2011 and it's still such an extraordinary brand created by Charlie and by Annabel Jones, his producer. And they've worked hand in hand on, the whole lot all the way through.
It started on Channel 4 and it went to Netflix.
Jay Hunt commissioned it, who was head of Channel 4 at the time, commissioned so many huge hits that are still going now. We've talked a lot about, terrestrials not being able to afford to do big things. And I think Black Mirror might have been the very first example of how that was. And actually, when you look into it, and, there was a split between Annabel and Charlie and Channel 4 and whose fault was that? And actually, you look at it was no one's fault. Everyone did the right thing, I think, at the time. So Charlie and Annabel had done a thing called Dead Set, which the brilliant Andy Nyman starred in, which was like a zombie thriller set in the Big Brother house. It had been a huge success and they'd loved making it, and it looked amazing. It had this great scale, and they said, well, I wonder if we can do some sort of, an anthology. Now, it's worth saying now that anthologies are the worst nightmare of every single TV channel that's ever existed. Because
that's what I always think. It seems like, it's just a different thing each week. I think it's so much more work.
Well, it's so much more work for the people making it.
Yeah.
It's so much more expensive for the people paying for it. Yeah. And if you're...
just to be really clear, because you have to have a whole new load of sets, a whole new load of characters.
Actors, the whole thing, the production.
All of it.
The whole thing is all standalone.
There's no economy of scale, really, because each one has to be conjured from nothing.
Exactly that, which is why no one ever commissions it. And then people go, but the Twilight Zone, which is the one that's most often talked about, the Twilight Zone was so wonderful and so successful. The Twilight Zone was cancelled more than almost any show in history. Yeah. The Twilight Zone was constantly cancelled because it was really expensive and no one really watched it. Yeah. We look back now and go, we've got this great library of Twilight Zones, aren't they amazing? And some of them are, but it was not something that people were particularly excited
and go
about.
Back and look at it, because it was nothing like as expensive as this, even in its on its own terms.
Exactly that. So Charlie has this idea, and Charlie and Annabel go into Channel 4, and Channel 4 quite rightly are not that excited about it. They're like, I don't know about this. Shane Allen, who was the head of comedy at Channel 4, said, I'll do this Black Mirror thing. So it actually came through Channel 4 comedy, which is a very peculiar place for it to come through. Obviously, a lot less money there than drama. So it really was a big punt and took a huge amount of their budget as well. And that first series is hugely memorable for everyone because it started with National Anthem, which is the one with Rory Kinnear, where he is forced by blackmail to have sexual relations with a pig, which of course foreshadowed so much of British politics. So there was that, and a couple of others. It was ludicrously expensive, but there was some buzz around it for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It felt incredibly exciting. Amazingly directed. All three of them are very different. Amazingly directed, great actors in them. Charlie's a wonderful writer. Annabel, an incredible producer, very involved in the process. I think Channel 4 realised that they had a sort of buzzy show on their hands. Yeah. The return on investment wasn't really there. They did another series of it, at which point Channel 4 said, look, we have to get co-production money. We know this show is great. We know people love this show. We need to get co-production money. And Annabel and Charlie had gone over to the States and seen everyone, really, seen all the networks. And they all went, no, it's an anthology show. Are you crazy? There's absolutely no way we will do this. We all know that anthology shows don't work. We all know they're too expensive. We all know it's essentially, commissioning 6 standalone films instead of a series where you have returning characters and cliffhangers and, catchphrases and stuff like that, the stuff that TV is usually made of. And so all the networks said no. So Netflix got the rights to show it in North America and in the rest of the world as well. And, didn't cost them an enormous amount of money, but it looks, it looked great. And so they showed it, and that's when everything changed. It went absolutely crazy immediately because there's something about them that, although they're very British, and obviously Charlie and Annabel have a very British sensibility, there was something very worldwide about them. The whole world were
they speak of the age. What's so interesting is that they really do seem to satirise the now via the 10 minutes into the future, which is, I suppose, your dream of all those kind of dystopian things. When something's crossed over into a completely different realm of kind of buzz and reception when it sort of becomes the brand name for a feeling.
Yes,
and
exactly.
people saying the whole time, oh my God, this is so Black Mirror.
Yeah.
The Twilight Zone, people used to say, oh my God, it's like an episode of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
and people do say things like, this is so mad, it's like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that is almost the most mass market one I can think of everyone, because everyone is living in this time of incredible technology acceleration.
Yeah.
And to always have to have two words for it, which are always like, oh my God, this is so Black Mirror.
I know pretty much anything that's happened in politics in the last 10 years has been very Black Mirror-esque. So goes out on Netflix. Suddenly everyone in America is going crazy. And more importantly, every single actor, writer and producer and director in America watches it and loves it because they recognise the job that Charlie and Annabel have done. They recognise it's brilliant. Jay Hunt at Channel 4 and Shane Allen, all the people who've been involved, they recognised there was this amazing thing. Channel 4 and Charlie and Annabel go, let's do a Christmas one. And John Hamm comes on board, who's the first big star really to have been in one of these, like big star. And he came on it because...
He was coming off Mad Men. I mean, it was a huge thing to have someone do something like that. And since then, their leads have been... I mean, their leads are always really incredible. Yeah,
always interesting. But Bill Hader had said to John Hamm, you have to watch this show. And so John Hamm had watched Black Mirror and just went, I mean, of course I did. And he did it for Channel 4 regular rate like everybody else. And, and so he came and did it. And that Christmas episode, by the way, one of my favourite ever Black Mirrors. So then they're in the situation where every single network in America is saying to Charlie and Annabel, we want the show.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Americans trying to say yes now.
You know when we said we didn't want to do this show? Well, now because every single dinner party we go to, people will... It's all they talk about it. We would now like to do this. It had this huge buzz, but it's still very, very expensive for Channel 4. They can't really make it. So she said, well, look, if we can get co-production, so then they can. I think the one place Channel 4 didn't want a co-production with was Netflix, because Jay is very perspicacious, and she sort of knew that Netflix was the beast that was going to eat everything. And for Charlie and Annabel, actually... because Netflix were able to say, here's an immediate 6-episode order. It can be any length you want, any genre you want. Here's the money, which is probably 4 or 5 times the budget you would get on Channel 4. Here's the freedom. Would you like to sign up with us? It's sort of impossible to say no to that. So Jay has to say goodbye to it. It's the truth. You can't keep doing it. Whether it would have been the phenomenon it is if it stayed on Channel 4 is difficult to tell. Charlie and Annabel have said
it wouldn't.
Yeah,
I think it just definitely wouldn't.
But they had the bravery to commission it in the first place. They had the bravery to put out National Anthem as the first one.
Yeah.
So they are absolutely part of the architects of the success of Black Mirror. As I say, now we understand that Netflix comes in for things and prices other people out of the market. This was such a perfect early example of exactly that happening. Big hit show that was already on a terrestrial broadcaster. Terrestrial broadcaster cannot afford it. Netflix are able to come in, throw a huge amount of money at it, and throw a huge amount of creative freedom at it, which also Channel 4 are not able to do.
Well, that's how they got everybody in.
Yeah, I think Channel 4 said we might be able to find out some money. We need to see all 6 ideas, and we need to, which is like a year's work. And you just think, but we could just go to Netflix and not do it. And so ever since then, it's been this phenomenon. Shows win Emmys all the time. So, Sopranos will win Emmys every year. Frasier will win it every year, but because, you know what you're getting. Black Mirror won Emmys 3 years in a row, but for shows that were entirely different, made by entirely different crews, entirely different genres. So San Junipero, which some people think is the greatest ever. Black Mirror won the Emmy. Then USS Callister, the Jesse Plemons one,
which they're doing a sequel of.
They are doing in this new one, and then Bandersnatch, which I think is one of the greatest technical achievements.
Unbelievable.
There's a trillion different ways to watch it. They won Emmys 3 times in a row with things that are entirely different stories,
that they've got up from the ground each time. For me, it's extraordinary in that in the way that something like The Day to Day, right back in the 90s was, which is it sort of satirises the future. And it somehow manages to stay ahead of things. As I say, everything's moving at such a pace. And television, as we know, takes forever to make. I mean, it takes forever to make. So I wonder how there must have been a couple of times where they've had an idea and in development shelved it because for some reason that particular area of our craps out world has accelerated so quickly that you think, this would actually look, we'll be looking back fondly on whatever this
and
concept
also,
is.
They sort of gut things for parts and take things from, other ideas. The one thing anyone who's ever around Charlie or Annabel, there's always saying, I had an idea for a Black Mirror, and they never work. The hardest work I've ever seen anybody do on any show, because they are making like a whole series of movies.
I think they're so amazing
at any given time, and one
Both
or other of them.
Everyone knows Charlie's amazing, but as you know, I think she's brilliant.
Yeah, she's incredible. But one of them is always on the set.
Yeah,
like they're absolutely hands-on all the time. It's an extraordinary achievement. Yeah. So this new series, there's a follow-up to USS Callister, which is going to be very, very exciting. There's a sort of follow-up to Bandersnatch as well, called Plaything, but no interactivity. I think the interactivity thing nearly killed them.
I think it must have, yeah.
There's a Paul Giamatti in something where you can walk into like old photographs,
which people are already saying you're going to be able to do. Yeah. All of it keeps pace so brilliantly.
Yes, it really does, doesn't it? It's amazing. They're just sort of 18 months ahead.
But they're much more than 18 months ahead because it takes so long to make.
To make them as well. And it's funny to think back. I tell you the interesting sliding doors thing. When Charlie and Annabel met at a company called Zeppotron, which was like a comedy company, the other side of Zeppotron went off and made Would I Lie to You, which I think is the greatest programme on television. So you got this group of amazing people. It was Charlie, Ben, Peter and Neil. When they started, like Charlie was doing TV Go Home, the fake listings thing, where I think the idea of having relations with a pig came from. So they went off and did Black Mirror, this enormous sort of dystopian world-beating thing. And the other side of it, Peter Holmes especially, went off and made the most joyful, beautiful bit of funny television anyone's ever made. And how lovely that it comes from a shared sensibility. But yeah, a huge British success story. Yeah. People, of course, always want to say, oh, yeah, it's not as good as it was. And, they'll never top this. But it's because they're doing all these 6 episodes. And watch any season of Black Mirror, and there's at least 3 of them that are heads and shoulders above pretty much anything else on television. And that will be the case this time as well, I'm sure.
It's not, because it's not so much a kind of visual aesthetic, although they do sort of cohere in lots of different ways, but it is a sort of a mood of the age.
Well, the interesting thing is they have entirely different production teams on all of the different shows. There's different directors, like different everything. So it's not like Inside Number 9 where there's a shared team. It's everything is entirely different. As someone who likes to set his creative bar to easy mode in terms of how is this going to be difficult to do, and if it is, can I do a different idea that's going to be easier to do? That's why I love House of Games. I just knew I could sit in a room with a bunch of people and you don't have to worry about what the scores are particularly, and you just make it as much fun as possible. And Charlie and Annabel every single time make things as difficult as possible for themselves, and it pays off in spades
every time. And
every time I see them picking up Emmys or something, I think that's where this absolutely, if you're brilliant and you have an incredible work ethic, that's where it gets you. We've done Minecraft, we've done Black Mirror. Where do we go from there?
We're going to the Beatles, Richard.
I've heard of them.
Now, as I said earlier, there was CinemaCon, which is the event where all the studios take their best wares, their best upcoming wares to Vegas and show them to the theatrical releases. But they do try to make it. I mean, they did some really. You try and get all the stars along. Everyone is you realise that people are still committed to putting things in cinemas, but obviously we're looking at a pretty gritty landscape. Okay, so, Tom Cruise will turn up to talk about Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, but he did a minute's silence on stage for Val Kilmer, who, by the way, we've got a special episode on later this week, which I think will be for our members. What I find interesting about CinemaCon is that you don't get to see, the fans don't get to see anything.
It's just for the business. Business to business.
Okay, now look at Comic-Con, which has understood that it has this intense fan community and that you give something back. I'm going to get onto the Beatles in a minute, but this is giving you the landscape. Yeah. And here, they showed a trailer for Avatar. They showed a trailer for After the Hump, which is the Luca Guadagnino film with Julia Roberts. It's a sort of post-Me Too thing. Andrew Garfield, Io Adebiri. I think... But you don't see any of these things. So you can see people writing down what happened, or else journalists are properly banned from reporting it. They have lots of stars there, but it's mega, mega controlled because people don't necessarily want their client to be out there. Maybe they'll do some ad lib that will go. But actually, I would start saying, you guys have got to reach to understand the people who watch your films in cinemas are the fans. That thing I said at the Oscars, which when you watch them at the Grammys, all they do is thank their fans from the winners. You never see anybody at the Oscars thank, what Norma Desmond called all those wonderful people out there in the dark. I think that instead of just being so controlled, they're just going to have to try and reach out, make it more of an event, just try and get some buzz out. As you say, the buzz that people, the way that Minecraft achieves buzz, the way that other industries that are doing better achieve buzz.
Especially as it is an industry thing that is specifically about movie theatres.
Yeah.
And so if you're creating the buzz, you're not creating buzz around IP or around, actors. It's literally buzz around what is going to come into a movie theatre, it makes that much more an event. If you're excited about the thing that is coming into a movie theatre, then
you're made to feel like, excuse me, as the ticket buyer, that you actually matter. If you're never thanked, you don't feel like you're part of someone's fandom, you don't feel like you're part of a community, then why should you turn out? Why not wait till streaming? Well, someone who does really care about theatrical release is Sam Mendes, and he is doing something extraordinarily ambitious, which is bringing out 4 Beatles, I don't want to say biography movies, it's set at a certain time, and the way they all intersect, all the different stars. And he went to CinemaCon last week, and they unveiled the casting.
And it really is the Fab Four.
I mean, it's so Harris Dickinson is John Lennon.
And we know him from.
So Harris Dickinson, who you know from Baby Girl, is John Lennon. Paul Mescal, who you know from all sorts of things, is Paul McCartney. Wow. Barry Keoghan from Saltburn, Banshees of Inisherin, is Ringo Starr, and Joseph Quinn, who had his sort of breakout in the last series of Stranger Things, but is going to be in the Fantastic Four, is George Harrison.
Someone said all 4 of them are sort of internet boyfriend types.
Well, that way of talking about things. Yeah, I mean, I suppose what you're trying to do is, and they also did, which I thought was quite unusual, which you don't normally see when people have just sort of signed on for something. They had a photo shoot of all of them. I'm wearing a black jumper in honour of it today, Richard.
Nice.
Yeah, all in black, all together. And then they were brought onto stage, and they all said a line from Sergeant Pepper. And there is a sort of, these movies are, by the way, all coming out in April. We don't quite know the release schedule, but we know it is April 2028. So it's
April 2028.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 movies.
Gosh.
There are some economies of scale, but you know what? Anyway, so, but these particular actors, and there are other actors who have something of that quality, but they are really sort of viral.
Yeah.
Ones who are opposites. They're always in fan edits. They're you can sort of see that there's going to be an attempt.
Yeah.
And there's an inevitable mania that will be created a little bit around seeing them all together.
What could they call it?
Yeah. Well, putting them all together does make them seem greater than some of their parts. And all of these things are designed to sort of create a buzz because, this is a huge sort of theatrical event. Funnily enough, Sony Pictures is being done with Sony. Sony Pictures, the chair, Tom Rothman, said, this is the first bingeable theatrical experience. Now, there's an element of this that is a sort of art house. It's not supposed to be art house because you want everyone to want to go and see it. It's like they want to go and see Barbie or Oppenheimer or whatever it may be. But a sort of there's something sort of slightly franchisable about it, like to say this is something different.
I tell you what would be a bingeable theatrical franchise: showing television in cinemas.
Okay, strangely they didn't talk about that at CinemaCon, but as you know, you're doing a presentation there next year where you explain this.
With Paul Mescal.
The medium that's eaten you, why don't you put it on in your television, in your theatres?
You might as well, right?
Yeah, okay. Well, I look forward to your presentation. Right now we're talking about the Beatles one.
Okay.
Anyway, so it is a sort of, you're trying to create a sort of release phenomenon, that thing where people feel like, oh, they must have, I have to see this and I have to have a view on it. But Tom Rothman did actually also say this is slightly giving me Avatar flashbacks because he oversaw that when he was at Fox.
Oh, really?
And that was it. Yeah.
So it's a big beast. But it's quite Black Mirror-y in that it's 4 separate. Although presumably there's a shared aesthetic.
Yes, and there's he's directing them all, and there's but there's something interesting you said to me about Beatles questions on your time on Pointless.
Yes, I always find it fascinating. Pointless tells you an awful lot about what people actually know about, and you show pictures of famous people, and you because you ask 100 people, you find out exactly who is well known and who is not well known. You
said they don't know about movies in general.
No one knows about movies
anymore.
No one knows who writes books. No one knows anything about who was in movies. They sort of know about television. They know about pop music. That's about it. But yeah, towards the end, so at the beginning of Pointless, if you had a Beatles question up there, or McCartney or Lennon, you'd be up in the high 80s. And then as the years went by, firstly you'd say to someone, it's about the Beatles, are you a fan of the Beatles? And people under 25 would go, I don't really know who they are. I have heard of them, but I don't really know them. And you didn't see that at the beginning of the series. It was something that came in. And also the scores for Beatles things would start going down. Still much bigger than pretty much anyone else, you could find from their era, but they were coming down and down and down. And I was thinking it's interesting that every generation has the thing they go to. I think the generation who fought in the Second World War grew up on cowboy movies because it was a thing that happened sort of 40, 50 years before them and was iconic. And then our generation, funnily enough, grew up on Second World War movies, war films, because it was something that happened, 40 years ago, and it was something that could be mined. And now there's so much Beatles stuff around, and it feels like almost like the Beatles are the Second World War for this generation.
That's really interesting. I think people not knowing so much about them.
But that's the thing is because we didn't, the Second World War, so much of what we learned from it was from films. Obviously we got grandparents and stuff like that. In the same way we can talk to grandparents about the Beatles, but the showing of it on television made everything kind of made that tale much longer. And it feels like the Beatles now will live forever because we're starting to go, we mustn't forget.
Well,
we
yes,
mustn't forget
and
what
it's
happened.
Creatively, that's a really interesting position to be able to be in, to say, oh, let me illuminate them for you completely differently for a different generation. Because I'd seen, the biographer, Hunter Davis, the band's biographer, official biographer, said on the Today programme, quite recently, the strange thing about the Beatles is that the longer we get from them, the bigger they become. I don't think that's true. And I think that what the appeal of this is that you can... I'm stunned by how many people have... young people I've seen say, I didn't really know anything about Bob Dylan. And after A Complete Unknown, I've done a deep dive into his music. It's like, oh, wow, okay. And that was quite a small movie. This is obviously...
huge. With the four biggest young stars in the world, apart from Timothy Chalamet, who couldn't be in it because he's French. Although he is Bob Dylan. But also, he couldn't be in it because he's Bob Dylan. You can't put Bob Dylan in the Beatles.
It's interesting.
God knows I've tried.
Bob Dylan didn't mind what they did with his life. He's one of those people who just said, do what you like. But I think it'd be interesting to see how the Beatles, the surviving Beatles, think about this. But I think the best thing you can always do is just say, make what you will, make what you please, and there'll be a sort of greater truth in some ways than if you're trying to sort of really kind of stick to a particular line. But one interesting thing is that nonetheless, and it's such a sterile way to talk about it, but this is the age we live in, the Beatles are nonetheless IP.
Yes,
they are a form of IP.
They really are.
And this is the first narrative feature that's been granted the music rights to their catalogue and all of those things.
There's been lots of movies before.
Yeah.
Backbeat is a great movie about the Beatles. Nowhere Boy was about the Beatles. But this is the first one. This is like the full theatrical. It's got everything that you could want from the Beatles.
Well, they're trying to create event cinema, and they're trying to create something that enough people feel like, oh, they can't miss. And you'll get all those things. There'll be memes about the marathon of it, like going in again for number 4 or whatever. But that's what you want. That's what you need in order to create, in the same way that Barbenheimer happened as a sort of organic. You need there to be that kind of euphoria, the need to have an opinion on it, like everyone felt they had to have an opinion on adolescence, the need to get the backlash.
Do you see the amazing thing where, was it Nick Ferrari who was saying to Kemi Badenoch, have you seen Adolescence? She said no. He said, well, you should. He was like really saying, I think it is a dereliction of your duty that you haven't watched it. She was like, I don't have to watch everything on Netflix. And
I saw, those people descend, like that, what's his name at Spiked, that sort of high wanker at Spike, who had to descend down and do the contrarian thing and say, really on the pages of Spiked, you're writing a contrarian think page saying that Stephen Graham's done something bad to the working class. Oh, has he now? Please do, Di. Have a listen to yourself, honestly. But you need all the backlash, you need all of that stuff, really, to create these organic moments. And it's a long time till 2028, and there will be... But having chosen those particular 4 stars...
Amazing.
And they've all got different projects coming up, very different way. You're hoping that alchemy happens all the time, and that there's a sort of mania about seeing them together.
And I do think that the observation that actually the Beatles, the anti-Hunter Davis observation, or not anti-Hunter Davis, he's a brilliant man, but this idea that actually their memory has got fainter and fainter, I think is actually a huge strength, because there's obviously still an enormous amount of people who know the Beatles were the greatest band of all time, and a younger generation like, oh yeah, I sort of know the name, and then they will see these 4 kids, and then they'll go to the movie, and the music stays the music. The song remains the same. And so I think it's one of those things where a new generation will find this band for themselves, and that gives you another 50 years, doesn't it?
Well, let's hope so. I think we've done quite a lot on cinema this episode, but one of the things, I spoke to a few people who were at CinemaCon, different people who were at CinemaCon last week, and I did get the distinct vibe from all of them. They all said that anyone having a hit now is good. Bear in mind, this is like the old, is it the Gore Vidal quote? It's not enough for me to succeed, my friends must fail. That is sort of things are in such a parlous state that actually you want hits even if rival studios are having hits, and that's something different than has always been the history of Hollywood. Is that lots and lots of people just want anyone to have hits now because they want it all to be kept alive, and going for a big swing like this, well, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Any recommendations this week?
I've been so looking forward to recommending this book for you, which I have known about for ages. This is such a funny book. I got sent this, someone wrote to me and said, and I've got a quote on the cover of this book in case you're looking and thinking, someone wrote to me and said, I've written a book, and I'm writing a book. I wonder if you'd consider giving a quote, looking at it when it comes out. And I thought, well, maybe you'll, finish it, or maybe. Anyway, it did come. But he did also say, I've given my advance to War Child, who are an amazing charity who deal with children in conflict zones, and I'm giving all the profits to War Child. So when the book came, I thought, I'm really going to have to read this one because of the War Child thing. Anyway, it's called The Accidental Soldier by Owen Mulligan. Okay. Honestly, by page 5, I'm like, sorry, who the hell's this guy? This is so funny. It is the story. He's in the TA, in the Territorial Army in 2006. And it is the story. He actually gets sent to Iraq. He obviously thinks he's going to be he's very clever, something to do with maps or something. He is leading a fighting unit in Basra. I mean, I don't want. Can I say after that? It is so funny. I laughed out loud. It's a genuinely funny book. He is a first-time author. The book is out this Thursday. Pre-orders matter so much to first-time authors.
They
really
this. Do. Yeah, huge.
It is such a good and funny book. It is absolutely fascinating into the world of what it was actually like. And, there's that whole world of the army. It's very, very funny. I mean, people in the army I always find are quite funny. But this is just genuinely brilliant. And with a real gut punch, it's incredible. I really, really recommend this book.
Right. Owen Mulligan.
The Accidental Soldier.
I was going to do a recommendation. I'll save it till next week because that
I went on so long. I'm so sorry.
No,
it's
absolutely
brilliant.
not. But that's so heartfelt, and it's as you say, anyone if you like the sound of it, buying it now is worth more to Owen Mulligan than buying it in 3 weeks. Buy it in 3 weeks if you want to.
Yeah,
but
it's so good. It's so funny. Okay.
Question and answers on Thursday.
Very much so, Richard.
I look forward to seeing you then.
See you next Thursday.
There's a catchphrase. And also, as you said, a bonus on Friday, celebrating the life and times of Val Kilmer. A lot of very interesting stories in there. That's for our members. If you want to sign up, it's therestentertainment.com. Otherwise, we'll see you anyway on Tuesday. Oh, my God. On Thursday, maybe? On Thursday. Yeah, because today's Tuesday. I'm so confused, aren't I?